Welcome back to another walking switch to Linux. Need to combine putting together a video with a little bit of exercise because I'm traveling today. But today we want to talk a little bit about, is it time to just completely ditch Ubuntu-based distributions? And this has been a long time coming. I've actually been thinking about this for a while, mentioned it on a few of the streams here and there. Even my beloved Linux Mint is possibly on the chopping block. Will I do it? That's a good question. I still completely love Linux Mint. I love what the distribution does. I love how it works, how user-friendly it is. The fact is, though, is that Linux Mint Debian Edition, so the Debian version of Linux Mint, might be just as good. And so maybe I jump to that. Maybe I just, hey, let's just jump onto Arch or back to raw Debian or something like MX Linux that gives us a good mixture therein. There's options out there. So why am I considering this? As I noted in the video a few weeks ago, looking at the Linux Mint and Firefox deal, the biggest impetus behind that move where Linux Mint made a deal with Firefox, a lot of this was to make the packaging easier because Ubuntu is pushing everything into Snap, so much so that a lot of the core Ubuntu package base that most people have relied upon is becoming unstable. And that raises a bigger concern, especially when the fact that this week it was found that there were over 40 different vulnerabilities in the proprietary Snap platform that were discovered on a security audit, which allowed a complete privilege escalation up to root access. And so, obviously, a lot of packages have been exploited. So it's not exclusively because it's Snap. It's not exclusively because it's Ubuntu. It's yet another one of these things that this was only discovered in a security audit because the distribution method for snaps is proprietary. This is a bug in the system which has already been patched, but it raises concerns that if you are running Ubuntu or anything based on Ubuntu, particularly if it is still utilizing snaps, then you will need to go through and update your systems because these are pretty critical bugs. Now, in almost every case, these have been patched. I think as of right now, the extended support has not been patched on one of the systems. So if you're running something really old, you might also not yet have a patch. But it's coming. Don't worry, it's coming down the line. Now, distros like Linux Mint are not going to be exposed to this bug because it has disabled and even blocked Snap by default. And so that's fine. But what ends up happening is as Ubuntu pushes more and more snaps, it is paying less attention to its own repositories and in some cases even stopping the distribution of some software that always had. In fact, one of the big Linux group, it was either FOSS or it's FOSS, I think, maybe it was OMG Ubuntu, one of them had an article a few weeks ago saying, hey, this little known Linux repository has went defunct and nobody knew about it. Why? Well, that repository was a repository for a variety of applications that are now all shipped as snaps. Now, to be fair, that was things that most of us in the hardcore Linux group don't care about, such as Skype and maybe Spotify. I don't remember if Spotify was on that list, but it was a list of packages that have been transitioned from that repository over into the Snap repositories. And so Ubuntu is simply not, they're simply not having as many things in their repository. And this is going to hurt every downstream distribution that is either going to be forced to utilize snaps, or it is going to be forced to find another way to package some of those packages, like Firefox, things like that, or it's going to have to go without them. All of those are bad scenarios, to be fair. They're all bad scenarios. And so as Ubuntu has taken this big stronghold in the Linux world, and more distributions are basing themselves on Ubuntu, with Ubuntu neglecting its package base, forcing everything to snap into a proprietary methodology, this raises some serious concerns down the road. And so I seem to think that the time of Ubuntu-based distributions are over, and next time I need to rebuild my computer, I'm probably not even using the basic Linux Mint build based on Ubuntu because of these issues. Now, maybe I go LMDE because I do still like the Linux Mint group. I just hope that they decide ultimately to prioritize their time on the Debian build and deprioritize their time for the Ubuntu build very soon. Please. Well, I might do something like MX Linux, or hey, maybe even the new Peppermint, who knows? But I might be looking into other options that don't include a distribution based on Ubuntu because of these issues with them. So what do you guys think? Is it time for Ubuntu-based distributions to go by the wayside? Let me know in the comments down below, and thanks to Dan for sending me the article on the Ubuntu snap vulnerabilities. Thanks for watching. I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux. Thank you for watching this video from Switched to Linux. This channel would not be possible without the backing of the program supporters scrolling on the screen now. You can be a supporter at Patreon at patreon.com/TOMM or at thinklifemedia.com. I also want to thank the open source community who creates such excellent software that makes producing this show possible. Please remember to support your software communities. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.